If this is your first time here, welcome. If you came back, I'm so glad to have you again. Please make sure you subscribe so you never miss an awesome tutorial from me or a live behind the scenes shoot video. I share tons of photo tips on YouTube and my videos, and you can join my Facebook group where I can teach you how to take better photos with the camera that you already have. All right, today we are going to do some editing together. I love editing. It's very relaxing, it's very fun, it can be very artsy, it can be a little overwhelming and intimidating. So I'm going to show you my workflow, and in particular we're doing beach photos today. I've shared a beach edit video before, but I can't help it. I just absolutely love beach photos. I really think it's kind of hard to take a bad photo on the beach. Just a quick tip, if you're shooting on the beach, you're going to get your best lighting as usual anywhere you are, but especially out in the wide open without any shade, either in the early morning sunrise or late at night sunset. When I chose my daughter's outfit for the shoot, I knew that there was always going to be those dreamy pastels that the beach just kind of naturally creates with the pretty blue water, the cream colored sand, and the sunset usually puts off some rosy pink hues. So she's wearing her rainbow dress. One thing is we shot in the evening because she is not, actually neither am I, a early morning person, and I just knew that a sunrise shoot was not going to work for us. So this is about 7:30 to 8 p.m. in the evening, which meant that the sun was very, very gold in front of her right here. And so it made her skin tones really golden, which is fine, but that's just something that you have to look out for when you're doing your editing, because I have this very blue, cooler tone from the ocean and the sky and the reflection on the sand, and then her skin's a very warm color. So as I edit these photos, I'm going to try to balance that out. You can see a couple here that I have already edited and kind of the end result. I added like a little bit of sun, like a little bit of golden color over the water and in the sky, and kind of blended it together. The skin tones are always kind of my marker in a photo for when I'm playing with color hues. I like to do dreamy colors. I like bright, creamy. I love pastels. That's kind of my signature look on a lot of my photos. But I don't want to make the skin tones look like a color that they shouldn't be, like purple or something alien-ish. So this is two versions of that photo. So I'm always very careful and keep checking back at my skin tones. All right, let's dive right into this. Right now I am in Aperture. So the first thing I will do, because I am an overshooter, I always have tons of photos from each shoot, is just go through and select all my favorites by rating them. So the ones that I know for sure that I'm going to want to edit, I will put a 5 on it, and then I click up here and I click just the 5-star rating, and then all the ones that I've already selected are right here ready for me to edit, and I can just go through these. These are all very candid photos. I really did not try to pose my daughter or even try to get her to smile at the camera. I just kind of let her run loose and let her be, and that's why we have a lot of these shots. I actually already made some adjustments on this one. Originally, I had it exposed in camera like this. So I had exposed it for her face. But I wanted to pull out some of the detail of the sky, and then I ended up kind of liking it when I put the exposure way down and it was more of a silhouette. So I left it at that, and then I adjusted the black point right here and pulled out just a little bit of detail right there in her hair and on her face. And then I took it into Silver Efex Pro, which is Nik from the Nik Collection. And this is where I do the majority of my editing, is in Aperture. I do my minor adjustments, and then I use Nik Collection, the Color Efex Pro, the Analog Effects, and Silver Efex Pro is where I do the bulk of my editing. I really only use Photoshop if I'm doing composite images or something a little bit more heavy duty, but for my portrait sessions, I rarely need Photoshop. The great thing about always working in Nik is that I have my presets already made. I'm super familiar with all the settings. Usually I can know what I want for a photo and get it done pretty quickly. And what I'll do is the first photo from a session, I will spend a lot of time playing with it. I might even edit a couple different versions of it, just getting it to where I really, really like the way that it looks. And then once I've found a preset that I really like and made minor adjustments to that preset for that photo, then I can batch edit the rest of the images so that they all look very similar. It is important in a shoot like this, as the sun's going down, some of them there's going to be a more golden light, and some of them it's going to be a much cooler bluish hue. So it will be important for me to kind of balance that as I edit through the session, adjusting those tones so that the photos are consistent. So I like the way this looks. It pulls out a little bit, it still leaves that detail in the sky, but it pulls out a little bit more detail in her hair. So unless I'm going for a super dramatic edit deliberately, I am going to try to have detail in the whitest whites and a little bit of detail in her hair. In fact, in my darkest, in the black. So I'm going to try to pull out a little bit more detail in her hair right there and her eyes. It just bugs me if their eyes are black. Like if you're doing a portrait and the eyes are just dark, that's one of the most important things to me if you're doing portrait work, is to have catch light in the eyes. You can see up close in the bottom right of the screen that she's got that sunset in her eyes, and I like that. Okay, so yeah, this I just adjusted the structure and brought out some detail in the shadow, and I actually really like this. Especially a detail that everyone may not notice, but as her mom, I can see her new freckles that she got during her beach trip, and I think that's really cute. So yeah, that's what I did with that photo, but I very rarely do black and whites for a beach photo because the colors there are so beautiful, and I don't want to lose those beautiful colors in my black and white images. I think this one just called for a good black and white. But let's do the rest with some colors, and let me show you guys what I do for that. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, that I just recently changed my workflow and started editing in analog Efex Pro first, because I really like the sun flares that they have. And it's especially going to help for this photo because they have a blue and purplish flare that's going to kind of balance out her skin tones and give it a really nice hue for that dreamy pastel look I'm going for. So we're going to open up the image and Analog Efex Pro 2. Again, that's from the Nik Collection. And I know most people are working in full Photoshop or Adobe Elements or Lightroom. Aperture and Lightroom are extremely similar. And then if you're working in Photoshop, it's super simple. It's kind of the same thing as what I'm doing now. I already have these custom presets that I've made. You can go online and purchase presets, download them. So when you open up an image in Photoshop, you can add that preset. And usually you're going to want to make a few little tweaks yourself, or a lot of tweaks depending on it. But it's nice to start with a preset to balance out your colors or your exposure or whatever. Okay, so I'm going to take off. I don't like the... Well, actually, I don't hate it. It's kind of like a hazy, this is a film, different film type. I'm just going to tone it down a little bit. And then let me show you guys the light leaks here. They have a ton of really cool options. I'll show you a couple. So here's this red one. You can move it around in the photo, and you can see that's going to make it very gold, which isn't bad. I mean, this is the overwhelming thing about editing. There's so many things to choose from. So I try to have a vision beforehand of exactly what I want and just stick to that, because otherwise I will get distracted and go down this rabbit hole of editing options. I don't want to waste my time doing that. I know what I want. I'm going to stick to it. So I really like this light leak right here. I'm going to adjust it on the image where, let's see, before and after. It's a little overexposed. I'm turning it down a little bit. That kind of cooled down her skin tones, blended it with the rest of the image. I'm going to use very, very subtle vignetting. I don't like anything that's super obvious, but I do like just a gradual fade where it's a little bit darker on the edge of the image, just to kind of draw your eye to the main subject in the center. Let's see that just right there. I think a really dramatic vignette is something that kind of cheapens the look of an image, in my personal opinion. Don't want the book. And then I'm going to go up to basic adjustments here, use this detail extractor, but I'm going to turn it down. I just need a little bit. I'd love to pull out a little bit more detail on the ocean and the sky behind here because it is a little bit overexposed. I'm going to turn the contrast down, and then obviously my saturation is just really out of control there. So I'm going to turn the saturation down. Now, since I used the detail extraction here, you can see a little bit of that sunset pink and purple tone in the sky, which I really like. And even though her dress is all wet, I think it's come together nicely. So let's look at a little before and after. You can see so much more details of the photo. You can see the lighting blended a little bit more evenly. And that's not too bad. I like it like that, but we're going to do a little bit more just for fun. And so that I can go over to Color Efex Pro, which is where I live the majority of the time, and show you guys some really cool things in there. So from here, basically what I'm going to do is, in Color Efex Pro, we're going to do a little bit of skin smoothing, and there's some presets I have in Color Efex Pro that just give it a little bit more of a polished, glowy look that I like. So that's why we're going to take it over there, just kind of finish it up. Okay, so the filter that was already here is the dynamic skin softener, which, I mean, she's 4. I don't really think she needs it. Yeah, we're just going to leave that off. When I do use the skin softener, this is great for people who are older than 4 who have cuts or blemishes, pores, normal human things, but just want a really glamorous, smoothed over photo. I use the dynamic skin softener, but I'm always really careful to go and remove the filter. So you can click the control points, the minus, which will take it out, and just put it right over their eyes, because I don't want the details of their face to get blurred out or look like it's not in focus. And if you're not careful when you're using the skin smoother, it can do that. Let's start with some contrast. It's amazing the difference a few little adjustments in contrast can make. That skin is so golden. I've got to watch what I'm applying to that. Okay, so I made a few little adjustments here, and then I like to use the color contrast range. Polish up. This kind of gives it like a matte look, which I like. This is very subtle, but I've used these before, and I know that I like the way they look overall in the image. When you're first starting to edit with new software, it's just going to be hours and hours of just playing with it and finding your style. It's definitely nice to watch tutorials to see a little bit of, oh, okay, so that's what that does. Or if you want to match like an image exactly, then definitely check out a tutorial and see how they did that so you can copy that look. But for the most part, just play with it for a long time so you understand what everything does and you know what you like best. So right here I'm using Vintage, the film effects. When I first got this program and started editing it, I would open these up and I was like, oh my god, all of these look just awful. I would never use any of these. They're crazy. But I played with them, and with making some adjustments, for example, the film strength, that doesn't need to be at 71%, it needs to be very subtle, and it can look really, really awesome. So we're gonna do a little bit, I'm looking for a bluish one that again is gonna kind of give this more of like a dreamy pastel look. Kind of like that one. Yeah, I'm definitely digging that. Okay. So that's without it and with it. It's turning that bright golden sun and sunburn into almost like a nice looking tan, so that's good. Then the finishing filter I usually put on for that finished polish is cross processing, and I like LO3. It's crisp, it's clean, it just kind of brightens, and I don't know how else to say it. To me, it just gives it like a polished look. But I think with that filter now, it's making this image look a little bit overexposed, so I'm going to darken it a tiny bit here. Bring some of my shadows back, because I don't want it to be too matte. I do like her to stand out. And now I'm pretty happy with that. So as you can see, some subtle adjustments, but in the long run, I think it makes a big difference. No, maybe I don't need that. Okay, so let's look at before and after with just what we've done in this, just the halfway on the photo. It's before, even though like it looked pretty good coming out of Analog Efex Pro, and then we brought it over here to Color Efex Pro, and there we go. So obviously this may not be everyone's style, and you definitely don't have to edit your images this way, but this is what I do, this is what I really like, and I'm pretty happy with that right there. So I'm going to keep it, I'm going to save it, and that's it. Thanks